So what are we working on today? Well, I'll show you. Yes, it's another cuckoo clock. This particular one is the same model, not the same clock of course, but this is the same model that I first worked on when I was a kid and took apart. It got me interested in this profession slash hobby. This is a Schatz 8-day cuckoo clock, and the one that I first worked on, my mother had bought at a yard sale many years ago. I was probably 12 years old, maybe 13 or 14, and she took it. It didn't work. She probably paid maybe $10-15 for it at a yard sale or a flea market, and she took it to a clock shop that had a stall on the local farmers market, and he worked on it several times. It took it back to him several times because it didn't work, and he could never get it running. I remember the one time we got it back, and he just disconnected one of the bellows, is what he did, to try to get it to cuckoo, and of course it just cooed. So at that point, as a young man, I just decided to take a look at it because I was fascinated with the mechanics. And my mother said, go ahead, whatever. So I took it all apart. I couldn't really put it back together again, and I couldn't, really fix it at that time because that was the first clock I ever took apart. But that got me interested, and then it went on from there. Now, wherever that clock is, I have no idea. It's probably long gone. I remember, I do remember breaking the strike hammer off, the gong hammer, at some point. But I'm sure that clock is long gone. But anyway, I have another one here. The exact model with a stag head. This one doesn't say Schatz on the front. Many of these do say Schatz right on the front. And this could be an early model. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. Rusty chain. But unfortunately, this chain is out of stock everywhere. So I've ordered and put it on back order. We'll see if we can get it in. Let's take the top off here. And when I got it, this was, one ear was broken off, and the antlers were broken off. I've glued them, took the pieces out, glued them back together, so they're now whole. Let me just take them off here, so they don't get broken again. I'm going to set this top piece aside somewhere safe. Where is that? I do not know. I got so much stuff around this shop. I'll take it outside here, outside the shop. Put it out here somewhere. Now let's get into this. The hands for some reason are completely frozen. I can't even turn. The minute hand is just turning on its washer. So I don't know what's going on there, but we will find out. Let's disconnect it. Now these Schatz clocks are designed very differently than most other cuckoo clocks. Let me get a bin here. They're not like the Regula movements that we normally see. Very different. So that's why I thought it might be interesting to delve into this and maybe bring back some memories. This time I think we're going to be successful in repairing this, since it's a long time since I was 12 years old. I've got a lot more experience under my belt now. These hands are filthy. We'll have to clean those up. These usually have a washer, and there it is. We're going to need to disconnect. This one has a door holder. The cuckoo bird is independent. I'll show you all that when I get the movement out. So let's get the connection to the door disconnected. I guess a very different design. this one's very dirty. Bellows are shot. I remember that. I of course took a quick look at it when I first got it. These have some weight to them. They definitely don't feel like a cheap product. Nice thick wood. And you can see the bellows here, the triangular shaped bellows. They're completely shot, as I said. Let's go ahead and disconnect these. What are we going to do with those? Well, I'm just going to replace them. I mean, you could recover these. I usually only reserve that for antique clocks and Bayha clocks and things like that. But and I suppose you could recover them. If you choose to go that route, that would be actually good. But I'm not going to waste my time recovering these. Now, these triangular bellows, unfortunately, I can't get in this size. This one is kind of like really caught up in there. I can only get the larger triangular bellows. I'll show you. You see, those are the bellows I can get now. It's only one size. It used to be you could get different sizes, and they are just way too big. So we can't use this style of bellow in this clock. But what I do have are these bellows, and they're the closest size I could get without getting too large. So we're going to use those. Again, if you feel that these should be recovered, that'd be something you could do. Put it down in the comments whether you think that these should be recovered. Let's see if we can get this one out of here. There we go. There's the whip wire. Set that aside. Get some of this bellow material out of here. Little pieces of bellow material. We have a little string here. You can see that sets off the cuckoo. That's pretty common on these Schatz clocks. I do remember that from past ones that I worked on, and the first one I worked on had that little string on it. Okay, let's get the bellow pipes out here. And look at the pendulum hanger off. That's really squeezed tight. There we go. Now you can see the movement. Very different. It's got the shape of a bird here, which I always found interesting. Now let's get these chains off. I'm going to have to just clean these chains and do the best I can until I can get the new ones back in stock. See how they'll clean up in the ultrasonic cleaner. pull these off. Now we have to get the string off here. Let's see. I don't know if we can untie it from here. Well, just kind of broke off. I'll see if I can get a new string to put on there. I don't think I want to reuse this, but I'll reuse the little bead here on the end. Okay, let's get this movement out of here. I'm very curious to see why it's so locked up that you can't turn the hands. Looks like somebody may have hit this with WD-40. Definitely is coated with something. Which is a bad thing. But nothing a good cleaning won't solve. And there's our movement. Very different design here. You can see this. That's the door mechanism there, and this is what pivots the cuckoo out. Very interesting. This one, my watch is calling to me here. Let's see why this is so locked up. They have a little wire here. I wonder if it's just rusty in there. That you have to remove. It's a little twisted wire here on the very end. In order to get the hour post off, you're going to have to remove that. We'll do that. I believe, if I'm correct, remember correctly, I believe if you take this piece off here, these can then come out individually. Well, this is really dirty, and this doesn't smell like WD-40. It's definitely got something all over it, very sticky. Smells old. All right, get this case out of the way. It's been a little while since I worked on one of these, so bear with me here. It seems like I'm fumbling around a bit, but it's because I am. I'll get the cuckoo off. And we're going to have to get that little piece of wire off, like I said. Wow, this is really gummy. This one you can barely even move this lever. Wow. All right, whatever it is they put in there has really gummed things up. WD-40 does that. If that's what this is. Not sure though. Let's see if this will come out. Oh, that screw was so locked in there. I was going to see if I could get the screw out here. So take this piece off. It does not want to move. There we go. We'll leave that as it is right now. I'm going to try to go to the front of the movement here and take some of this stuff off here. There's no mover replacement here, folks. This is just a straight overhaul. These haven't been available in a long time, these Schatz movements. I'm going to try to get this piece of wire off here. Let me sit down here so I can turn on some extra light here so that I don't walk off the camera, which I tend to do when I'm standing up. See if we can get this wire off here. There we go. It's like it just broke right off. There. Planning on putting a new wire on there anyway. Okay, let's get the we can get the rack off. Let me get my standoffs here. We're going to put these down. Bring these down, I should say. And we'll get this stuff off the front. And this will sit in the cleaner for a bit, these parts, since everything's so gummed up. Give that new ultrasonic cleaner a good test. Get everything out of the way. I like to have a clear desk. Leave that. And actually, I meant to hold on to this here. Okay, let's get these clips out. Even these clips are a little bit different than what we normally see on the Regula movements. Lift the rack off. And we'll get the hour pipe off here. A little teeny washer in there. You don't remember that. That was underneath the piece of wire. And then on top of the arrow wheel. That's interesting. Glad I didn't lose out. I almost did. We have this assembly here. It's riveted here. So that most likely will just have to stay on. Let's see here. We can get see if we can get this set-off lever off. I'm trying to see what would be the best thing to take off next. Let's see if we can get the gathering pellet off using my little tool here. That works great on the Regula movements. Where is it? Let's see if we can. Fit this under everything. Here we go. Works good for that. A little tighter fit. And we have a washer over here that needs to come off. Clip washer. Suppose I could take this movement apart and take this out later. There. All right. Lift this out. Now this assembly here has a set screw which is connected to the rack hook. See how that works there. When the cuckoo comes out, this drops down, the rack hook raises up, this piece drops down, and the bird is held. And what happens is the bird kind of like pivots in and out, which is an interesting design on these. As this wheel spins around here, it's got a sort of a cam on it, if you want to call that. It lifts the bird, and the bird comes in and out like this as the door stays open. So it's an interesting design. So I can get this movement to even turn, but the strike function won't even turn, it's so gummed up. So let's see if we can get this off. If not, we can just take the movement apart with that still in. All right, that's loose. Can we lift this out? There we go. And these two pieces will come out just like that. And that comes off. You can see how these two pieces are assembled together. All right, we've got everything off the front. So we'll focus on the back of the movement so we can take it apart. Let's see if this piece, when I take it off, we can remove the lift levers. Now, check this out here, folks. This design is a bit different. You see this here? The longer one is on the top, as opposed to the regular movements, which have the longer bellow lift wire on the bottom. So that's something to make note of. We'll get this out, this piece. It's gummed up in there. That comes off. Can we get these levers out now? Yes, we can. See that? That's the top lever. This is the next one down. This lever here, of course that's not a lever, that's the strike hammer. That comes out. And we can take the other. Careful. Let me move this standoff up a little bit here. There. these bellows and put them in a separate container. There we are. Man, look at this gum in here. Whatever this is, it's just, ugh. Notice how the teeth, how coarse the teeth are on the time side here. Look at that. You can definitely tell the difference between the time chain wheel and the strike wheel. That come off. This lever here, and ooh, that was stuck in there. So there's that cam I was telling you about here. This lifts the bird to protrude out the door as it comes around. Now this is our stuck, the way the hands are stuck, the reason why the hands are stuck. So I'm going to take this off. It's got this little wire just holding the tension washer on. You can pry this off because we need to free this up. This wire is most likely going to just break. I'm sure we're going to be able to get this wire easily out of there. One piece broke off. Let's see if we can get the other piece out from the other side. There. That is really jammed in there. Man, oh man. There we go. Just gummed up so much that you wouldn't even move. We're just going to leave that one in there. That'll be fine. Going to the cleaner, through the cleaner, I should say. I'm going to put the bird and the hands in a different bin also. Let's go find a bin for those. Alright, what we'll do, folks, is we'll put this through the cleaner, do the bench work to it. Bench work meaning the polishing the pivots, doing the bushing work. No different than any other clock as far as polishing pivots and things. And then we will bring you back when we're ready to to assemble. Not sure what I'm going to do the bellow tops, but we'll get to those eventually. We'll put that on video too. All right, folks. We'll see you in a bit.
A few moments later.
While the ultrasonic machine is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and work on these bellows here. So first we'll start with the left-hand side one. These come off quite easily. The nice thing is, if you really do want to recover these, you could at this point. What I'm going to do is I need to sand this off. So I'm going to take this into the garage. I'll just take some relatively coarse sandpaper and just go like that with it. And then clean them off that way. I'm going to go ahead and see, this is the right hand side. Just looking at these bellows to make sure I don't get them mixed up. I'm going to leave that one on. This is the left hand side. I'll bring it back when I've got it sanded. Okay, I've got the top sanded off. We're going to go ahead and just glue this bellow top on here. What's interesting is the color match isn't too terribly far off. It's a little bit more yellow. Not sure if the camera can pick that up, but pretty close. I'm just using wood glue here. Any wood glue should work. Put a coating on here. And a coating on here on the bellow itself. We'll just line up the holes. We'll clamp it. I think that might have moved a little bit too far forward. Back it up a little bit. I did notice even on the original bellows, the holes were not perfectly lined up. All right, we'll let that set up. Go a little far forward with that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the other bellow pipes, and then we're going to bring it back once the movement's cleaned and rebushed and the pivots are polished and we're just ready to assemble it. So we'll see you at that time.
Tomorrow for sure.
Welcome back. It's now the next day. I moved that chime clock that was here. I wasn't running it because of the chiming was going to interfere with the video. I had another one there on the previous video, and I noticed it was a little confusing to some folks. As I was editing the video, I would cut out certain parts of the video. The time would suddenly jump ahead. So I decided just to remove that clock and create some space for me. Now, I also want to address an issue of how I'm handling these movements. I did notice I'm a bit jittery in tossing the parts around. First of all, it won't hurt the parts to toss them around a bit. But the reason why I tend to be quick is I drink a lot of coffee. I'm going to have to try to cut back on it, but at the same time, I've heard that this was on the news the other day that it's actually beneficial to have 5 cups of coffee a day, and I'm almost at that mark now because it staves off diabetes and has a host of other benefits. So I probably won't cut back, but I'll try to slow down my working movements here. Anyway, on to the movement. So then we got it completely bushed. It's clean, but you can see it's a little bit discolored in places. I think that's probably because of the lacquer that was on there. I'm using a homemade cleaner too with ammonia and Dawn dishwashing soap, not the stuff that you would purchase from, say, Time Savers or Merritt's. I'm just testing it. It's clean, but it just doesn't have a superlative shine that you sometimes like to see, you know, when you overhaul a clock. This is my own clock, so I'm not really concerned about how it looks as long as it's clean. Let me get the standoffs on here, and then we'll start the assembly. You can actually see, and before I go ahead and do that, all the bushings I put in it. Here, a lot of pivot holes. The worst ones are actually on the strike side. This one was really bad right here. The other ones were so-so, and the time ones here were, I probably could have gotten away without bushing them, but since I'm there and it's a part, you might as well do it. They had a little bit of play in them. Probably not super excessive for a cuckoo clock, but I decided to go ahead and do them anyway. One problem I did run into, and one problem that you might run into, is where this pivot hole is located right here. This is the rack post. Look at that. Look how close that is. Thankfully, that pivot hole really wasn't worn, and there was very little slop in it, so I didn't address that at all, because how would you? It's so close to that post. Anything you would do to cut that pivot hole out would end up, the post would end up interfering with that, so I left that alone. If you come across this and you've done these kind of movements and had to bush that, what did you do to correct that? The only thing I could think of is, I don't advocate this, is to maybe use a punch to try to punch that closed if it's really worn, maybe from this side, but that's not something I like to advocate. Anyway, that's just something I observed. Let's go ahead and assemble this here. It's been a long time since I've done one of these movements, taken it apart and done a complete overhaul on it. For years, I'm talking about. So bear with me here. I think we'll start by putting in the center wheel. I like to put a little drop of oil. A little drop of oil on it. And we'll drop the center wheel in, which is right here. Tension spring. And this movement was really gummy, folks. It took quite a bit of scrubbing to get all that hard congealed stuff off of it. And to make sure there's nothing left on this. Okay, looks good. Thought I saw something there, but it's just a mark. We got that. Now, I've got a piece of wire here that I think I can use. It may not be as pliable and soft as I like. I think it's soft enough. So we're going to go ahead and put this in here. I actually had trouble finding piece of wire that was the right size, and it has to be soft too. suppose you could use a taper pin and then bend it around. Let's see if I can get this in here. There we are. And we'll see if that's going to work out. I don't want it to be super duper tight. You got to be able to turn those hands. Okay, looks pretty good. We might do with something like this just to make sure it lays flat. That's good. We don't want any of this wire sticking up to interfere with the pivot here and the plate. So I want to make sure that was nice and flat. Feels like it would be the proper hand tension. Okay. Let's put these wheels in here. Oops, I got it in the wrong hole. Yeah, 2 pivot holes here. This is the hole that it goes in. Wonder why I was awful close to the other chain wheel. Getting a little bit off topic here. I don't know if anybody has seen the previews for this new Spider-Man movie. If anybody out there who's watching this is into the Marvel universe. Looks like a very interesting movie. I found the trailer to be even entertaining, so looking forward to that movie. It looks really good. And then just yesterday, the trailer for the new Avengers movie dropped. It's going to be in theaters in December. That looks really interesting too. So I'm starting to get tired of the superhero flicks, which there were quite a few of them. But especially this new Avengers movie, this seems to be tying a lot of things together from previous actions from the different characters in the different movies to lead into this Doctor Doom thing. So it should be interesting. Looking forward to it. Okay, now let's get this lever in here. This goes around. Let me take that out first. And got to figure out how to synchronize this here. I didn't make a real note of where this wheel was. It's going to go here, I believe. So I'm going to say that it goes just like that, with it just dropping off the cam here. Just like that. And I'm going to say that this pin is going to, not sure, but it may be up. We may need to revisit that once I get the levers in and see how they all function. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. We'll definitely have to crack open the movement and do some re-indexing, I'm sure. Okay, I think that's everything that's going to go in between the plates, except for the pallets, of course. Try to move over closer to the camera here. We'll sneak in the pallets here. Let's see if we can keep them in between the plates as we drop it down in here. I did bend this spring, so I want to make sure I bend it back up. I think it's going to want to go right about there. I bent it by accident by dropping one of the parts onto it. Alright, we're just going to feed everything in here, as we normally do for an assembly. I'll put the pallets in the pivot hole. Let's put our nuts on here. I still don't know what that gummy stuff was all over the roof, but man, it had really gummed everything up. I'm just going to put a nut up here just to kind of keep pressure on these plates. There we go. Dig out my tweezers here. Because I'm looking forward to that Spider-Man movie. The trailer alone is entertaining on that. That's going to open at the end of this month, 31st of August, I believe. And this is 2026 in case you're watching this video years from now. And it's called Spider-Man Brand New Day. We've been watching the previous movies as we lead up to this new movie. My son and I, when I say we, because he's a fan. I really liked the last one. No Way Home. It was really good. It brought the previous Spider-Mans together, which I thought was really cool. It was a good way to explain things. I'm not sure I really buy into this multiverse thing we see with the Marvel superheroes, but anyway, it makes for an interesting story, I suppose. Get these pivots in here. Easier said than done. And we'll put another nut up here to keep more pressure on these plates. And there goes my phone. When I say phone, my watch. Phone's outside the other room. We'll just end that there. Decline that call. Somebody from Connecticut. And I am nowhere near Connecticut. There we go. Somebody has left a message. There it is. Drop down in. Alright, we'll double check our end shakes here. Something you should always do when you do a lot of rebushing. Even when you don't, you end up with a bent pivot, which can necessitate everything has to come apart again. Yeah, see, that one's a little bit tight right there. That one's a little sticky. We're going to have to go and check that one. And that could cause a problem. That's why you check your end shakes. We'll check the pivot, see if it's bent, find out what's going on there, and I'll bring you back.
15 minutes later.
We're back. Okay, I had to open up one of these bushings a little bit more. It was just a little bit too tight. Just wanted to point out one of the things, one of the ways you can check for any sticking wheels in the train is you just spin it like that, and then just sort of rotate the movement up and down. And if it grinds suddenly to a halt, it doesn't slow down to an easy stop, then you have a sticking wheel possibly in the train here that you need to address. This one looks fine, so we're good. I'm going to go ahead and start the reassembly again on this.
Twenty minutes later.
Now, we'll need to sync this here. You know what? I might as well do that right now. While this wheel is disengaged from it, I'm going to stick these levers in. Try to get this thing synchronized. Start with the strike hammer. Remember, the shorter one goes on the bottom. The shorter lever, that is, the bellow lift lever, and the taller one goes on the top. Let's see where we are with this. Well, actually, I think that's pretty good. Let's see. Let me bring it back a little bit. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just getting it so this top lever just drops off. Actually, this needs to go on the other side. Let's put the pallets in the pivot hole that they belong in.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, I like that. Let's see how that works out. All right, I'm going to turn the movement over here. We'll look at the front here. Drink another sip of coffee here. Cheers, everybody. And let's throw some oil on the front of this here before we put all the levers on. Put a dab of oil on these bellow lift levers too. And oil there. And there, we got that. Center arbor. Got that. Might as well go to the back of the movement and do those too. Pivot holes, what I mean. That's what I mean when I say those. A little bit of oil there. Okay, I think the next one we want to put on is this one here. which will be this one here. Oh man, that doesn't go there. That goes here. Put a little clip washer on there. And let's see here, clip washers. It's one of these here. That had a little something stuck on it there. Pop that one on there. Okay, that's on. Sure we have a little bit of end shake there. We do. Throw a little bit of oil on there. Now this lever here we need to put through here, but this requires the other levers to be put on. This and that. And they went on like that. Little spring wire we have here goes underneath that lever. There is a hole there, and you're tempted to put it through a little hole. I'll show you that in a second here when I get this all attached. I'm going to tighten this here. You can see where this spring wire goes through right here. Not through the hole. It's a little dimple right there on the lever that the spring wire rests. And that's where you want to put it. You can see how, as I lift this lever up, how everything kind of moves forward. Now, I'm going to check this here. It looks good. See, when I have this rack hook up here, on the rack, we want this piece blocking this piece right here. This is what opens the door, so that the door stays open. Now, as the cuckoos, of course, we're not going to be able to pick up the rack here. See how it moves the bird in and out? We may have to reset this stop pin here and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's still kind of sitting up here where this is not dropped off the cam yet. So we're going to have to re-index that warning wheel where the stop pin is. So that's another issue we got to deal with. So that the cuckoo can drop back in when it's all done striking. Not the easiest clock to work on, I'll give you that. Let's get that out of there. So the pin is up there. I want this to drop off, so it would be right around there. Okay, that might be right. Let's see. I'm going to put the fan, or what we call the fly, back in here. See what that looks like. Of course, without the rack and gathering pouch on there. I like that. Okay, I think that's good. The reason why we don't have the hammer dropping here is because I have this piece loose. Okay, let's put this nut back on here. Tighten that down. All right, I think that looks good. Tighten that. Make sure we're tight. All right, run it around to the front again. I'm going to tighten this screw here because I think we're pretty good with that. If I'm not, I'll have to go back and loosen it and readjust that. Now let's put the gathering pallet on. That's going to go right about there. I want to make sure it clears the rack. Sorry folks, I'm all the way to heck over here again. Alright, let's just push this gatherer on here. Finger tight for now, I want to test it. We'll allow the rack to drop and we'll see what happens here. See what it looks like. Take that off because it's blocking the fan. Okay, something's not right there, you can see that. Okay, looks good. Might want to tweak that lever a little bit so that this drops a little further down to make good contact with that pin. Don't really like bending levers. Let's just do this. Just bend it up just a little bit. I like to have a little bit more positive lock on that pin in there. This needs to drop a little bit further down. Now maybe when I butch this pivot hole here, it got slightly off center and just raise that gather up just a tad. It's very possible. Good. Okay. Okay, I want to go ahead and tap this gathering on tight. Gathering pallet on tight. Now, I'm going to support it on the back pivot hole on a block. Because I have the bushing on this side and very well could end up pushing that bushing out if I tap it without any support. Go like that with it. And we'll go get a hollow punch. We want to support the plate right here on this side, so we don't go punching that new bushing back out. Right about there looks good. There we go. We are close to done, I think, folks. Maybe put a little spot of oil here on this lever I just put in. Put a little bit in there. Can't hurt. Let's go ahead and support this from the back so we can work on the front again. Okay, let's see where we are here with the snail. Let me grab a minute hand here. I still haven't cleaned these hands off. I will be doing that next after we get this fully assembled. Okay, that's the hour. So let's set it so that it just drops onto the 11 o'clock, because that is the shortest step. And if we get that right in the middle, let's try that there, and we'll bring it around to, this will be the half hour next. Half hour, and then we have the 12 o'clock position. Then we have the half hour coming down here. Let's see how the half hour works. It's the half hour. Now we have the 1 o'clock position, and it looks good there. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this washer on. I did clean all these washers and clips also in the cleaner. I think that might go better that way. Clip that on there. Okay, and then we'll put the washer, clip washer on for the rack. Okay. It's a little loose going on there. I don't know if I like that. Just take that off and maybe squeeze it together a little bit. There. That should be tighter. Kind of squeeze that together, maybe a little too much. Let's see. Let's see here. Can we get her on there? There it is. Now, you know what we can do? We can actually put the cuckoo bird on here. I have a little dimple as to where the screw head or the screw went in contact, so we might as well put him in here or her in here. Nice wooden painted cuckoo bird, which is always nice. Schatz always put a decent looking cuckoo bird in their clocks. Looks more like an antique. I'm going to put that right out there. We're ready to put this in the case. Take a sip of coffee. What I want to do right now, though, is I'm going to clean these hands up a little bit. I can use the cleaner, the fluid I have, which is just ammonia distilled water and Dawn dishwashing soap. You could just use something like Windex to clean these hands. When I go ahead in the garage and just take a toothbrush, and we'll clean the hands, and then I will be back. All right, cleaned up pretty good. Let's see what they look like. Just using my ammoniated clock cleaner. You could use Windex, that should work fine. I did use an old toothbrush. A word of caution though with these old hands, they tend to be brittle. So if I had laid this flat like that, it could have broken this, it could have cracked it as I scrubbed it with a toothbrush, because we have the collet there. So you want to make sure you set the collet like in a hole. I took a piece of wood, set it in a hole so that the hand was flat. I was able to scrub it with a toothbrush. Same with this one, because this has a little bit of a washer here too. A little insert there. So just a word of warning. It's happened to me before, so that's why I mentioned that. I knew kind of what to do with these hands. But let's get the chains on here. They cleaned up in the cleaner. Still a little bit rusty, but not too much you can do until the new chain comes in, whenever that is. I mentioned before in a previous video that chains, many of them are hard to get. This is one that's out of stock, and nobody knows when they're going to be back in stock. Hopefully they will be sometime in the future. That's not a guarantee from what I gathered talking to the supplier. Take the end rings off here. I clean these chains in the ultrasonic cleaner. I suppose I could scrub them with a wire brush also, but yeah, they look like they're clean enough. And they're going to be replaced anyway, eventually, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and put these on. Okay, it's on. Okay, let's get it in the case here. Oh, you know what? Wow, one thing I almost forgot. And that is that little washer on the front of the movement. Something you do not see on any other cuckoo clock, and I'll show you what I mean here. I just noticed it sitting in the bin. I'm like, whip-woo. I do forget things. Let's see if we can assemble this here. I wonder how many people who work on these clocks do forget that, and I don't know what happens if you would forget it. Not sure really what it's there for. Because it's unlikely that this is going to come up so far as to disengage from this wheel. So, but it's this little washer wire that goes on there. Goes on just like that. Now I have, let's see, I have this little wire here that I was figuring on using here. Let's see if this is something we can use. Nice soft brass wire, nice and thin. the excess off here. Make sure this is nice and tight. And we can put the hour hand on around it. We can, no problem. Okay. There it is. It's on. Now we can put the movement in the case. There's a lesson for you folks. Don't forget that little washer and the wire that holds it on. Okay, folks, I'm now going to take a break. My wife's leaving soon for a weekend away, so I'm going to have to say bye to her. So, I will bring you back a little later. Okay, my wife is headed out for the weekend. I almost forgot to put the string on here too, so that's something I almost forgot to do. So that's on now. I also wanted to go over to show you guys, the way this thing operates, because it is a little different than most other cuckoo movements. I'm going to pull this to set the strike off. It's actually, I got to turn the hands around to be able to do that. Get away from the hour. It's going to drop 1 o'clock. Now, if you can look here, this lever is going to rise up, and you can see what it does as it does. It lifts both the cuckoo bird and this lever up. This lever stays up because it's caught by that lever, which is attached to the rack hook. That's not going to drop until the rack hook drops off the rack. So let's get it in motion here. See how that rises up, this lever here. Bird comes out, drops off. Now on the multiple strikes, which I'll turn the hands around here so you can see. Again, you don't have that swing arm that you would have with the regular movements. This is a totally different system here. That's the half hour. We're coming up to 2 o'clock. It's going to drop 2 teeth on the rack. The bird's going to come out. The door's going to stay open, but the bird flops back in. Isn't that interesting? Because it's not being held up. It's a separate lever on a separate lever. But then when that cam comes around again, it's going to pop back out again. So that was twice. Okay, watch that cam in there. See it? I can show you more a close-up view of it. It's going to lift that lever, which lifts both those levers up with the birds attached and the one where the door will be attached. Does its cuckoo call and then drops back. We'll bring it up to 3 o'clock here. And you can see this here. Bird pops in and out. Then it releases when the rack hook drops off. One more time. This is the half hour. Very unusual. It'll drop for 4. Right now the door's closed. This lever here, as it lifts up, this lever here has a little bit of play in it. See that? This hole here is large, so there's just enough play that when it lifts up, it's going to block this lever from dropping back down, which holds the door open. Then when the rack hook drops off, this lever moves out of the way and everything shuts down. The door shuts and that's it. So a couple things you have to be aware of is this has to be adjusted right. Of course, we have to make sure we have end shake on that. And if you have this too far that way, it's not going to operate properly. If it's too far that way, then the door won't close because it won't be able to release this lever here. Right now, this lever is nice and free because it's released. Let me see, it's close. Could be moved a little bit that way. Well, that should be close. That should be good enough. So, give me 1 second. I hear my cat meowing out there, and I don't know what's going on. What's wrong, kitty? Huh? What are you meowing about? Huh? It's because mommy left? Is that why? All right, whatever. Not sure what's going on with the kitty. He was meowing out there. Okay. Anyway, so that's how these work. We'll thread this string in here. Get this chain. Oh, I pulled the string out. There we go. All right, now we can get the screws in because everything is done. Tighten these down. I want to connect up this door, and we'll see how it operates here. Not a spring-loaded door at all. This is basically, it's got a counterweight on it. You've noticed that these two things right here, those are counterweights. This is what helps close the door when it's all done cuckooing. So I pulled on the strike, and we'll see what happens here. Here it is. Hold it so you can see it. That's the way it should operate. Okay, let's put the little bead on the end of the string here. See if we can get this through there. It's a small hole. Yes, folks, I actually did lick it. Sometimes that helps to get a string through there. Might have to help it with a screwdriver here.
Meanwhile,
We had to change the battery. The battery died. It's just as well. It's spare you the vision of me repeatedly licking this string until I could get it through there. I finally was able to get it in and tie it out. So that's in. We can put the hooks on here. Let's pull the chain up a little bit. We are getting ready to test this out. We're going to put the bellows in then next. Okay, it's on. And we'll put the rings on here. Okay. Let's put the pendulum. Actually, let's not put the pendulum hanger on just yet because we have to put the bellows in. I'm going to put the hands on last because having it face down on this, I don't want anything to possibly break the hands if we rest it on the hand by accident. Let's take a look at these bellows here. Okay, let's see, that one's going to go on that side. So we can look at these bellows and we can determine that this goes on the right hand side, which is unusual actually. Usually the lower note has the whip wire on it, but again, this is a Schatz clock, so they do things differently. Let's go ahead and we'll take the bellow lift wire off. That's going to go on the right side. Incidentally, we can use these bellows, again, if I decide to recover them, because they are the old style bellow. Maybe on some other antique clock that really warrants it. I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to take this out here if I can get it. Almost got it. There we go. The little staple comes out, and then we're going to try to pull this out. It comes out just like that. And we can pretty much gauge as to where to put this. I want to put the, let's see. Okay, I'm going to put the hook right here, so we'll just make a little mark here. When I say hook, I mean the ring. That right there. See what I got here. Tiny little drill bits. See if we can use these. Pin vise. And we'll drill a hole. Right about a little bit lower maybe, because we have to put the whip wire up there. Of course you can't see anything because I'm off camera. Let me bring it over here. That's over there. I'm just drilling a hole for the loop where the bellow lift wire goes through. Okay, that's it. Now we got the little whip wire here. Okay, let's get this staple in here. Alright folks, that's what it looks like. Not the easiest thing to do, but I'll show you what it looks like here as it strikes. Fortunately, I can't show this to you up on a test stand because I don't have a test stand available. So what we'll do is we'll put the back on here. We need to put the hands on, so let's go ahead and do that. That's the half hour. Five o'clock, so we'll set the hands for 5. Last but not least, we got to get the pendulum hanger on, which I almost forgot. Didn't get very far without that. Do a little lubrication on that. Notice this has a strange bend in it down here. I'm going to bend it back and we'll see what happens with that. Might be out of beat when we get it up on the wall, we'll see.
Later that same evening.
Okay, situation report, everybody. I hung the clock up on the wall and it stopped almost immediately. So what I had to do is I had to take the movement back out and take it apart again, and I had to broach out a couple of those bushings a little bit more in the time side. The one of the escape wheel bushings and the wheel next to it. These clocks tend to want to have the bushings a little more sloppier than normal. And I sort of remember that from before. I hung it up now. We went to dinner, you know, with it just in this situation here, and it ran just fine. So at this point, we're going to put the bellows back in. I also had to fill this hole in here. The screw was just turning. It was chewed out too much. So I had to do that anyway. So let's go ahead and we'll put this bellow back in. We'll finally get this guy up on the wall and running. All right, folks, there it is. I'm going to back up a little bit so we get the entire clock in view. I'll move closer now. Let's set off the strike. You see how the bird kind of pops in and out there. The only style of cuckoo clock that actually does that. took a little extra time to take care of this one. As like I said, I had to get back into it. I have to adjust that gong strike camera just a little bit. But it's running well. Now, as I recall, the original pendulum on these was quite long. I didn't have a pendulum or weights with this when I got it. So I did have a pendulum leaf and a stick on hand. But it's a little short. It should keep time. I have to move the leaf up a little bit. But the original ones had a stick which protruded all the way down to here or so. And then, you know, you had to move the leaf up a little bit. Now the weights I have are just some that I found in one of my boxes there. They take a 1,500 gram weight. And I've got two on order, two matching ones, so we'll have matching weights. But for now, this will work just fine. One more time here. We'll do the 1 o'clock. And with that, we'll call it a day. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this one. We'll see you in the next video. And also, if you do like this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification and give the video you like. Give the video a like if you really do like the video. It really does help out the channel. Comment if you want. That also helps out the channel. All right, folks. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.